Human methods have always stood out for one thing in particular: overkill. Admiral Talon stood before the projection screen, flipping through a series of images that lit up behind him. "The Battle of Yavon 5, he announced. Humans called it light bombardment. The image on display showed 5 massive battlecruisers suspended in low orbit, all simultaneously unleashing orbital artillery on the terrorist fortress known as the Keep. Over 2 megatons of ordnance rained down upon a mere 50-square-mile target zone. When asked about the severity of the operation, human ambassadors responded with nothing more than a puzzled expression and a simple reply: "That's just the nature of orbital fire support." The screen flickered, now displaying a snapshot from a human news outlet. The massive bombardment? It barely warranted a passing mention, buried deep beneath a headline titled, "Human Volunteers Aid in Peacekeeping Operations." For those unfamiliar with the era a century past, the so-called Keepers of the Sacred Word were once the most dangerous terrorist organization the galaxy had encountered in over 50 years. To the humans, however, they were little more than a pest, an inconvenience to be squashed. Then came one of the most iconic and haunting images in galactic history: a lone human soldier standing above the ashes of New Colante. The city was nothing but a ruin. Overhead, a formation of frigates loitered, sending bursts of autocannon fire into the wreckage, silencing anything that dared move. And amid all this chaos, the soldier stood, calm, unbothered. Her rifle hung loosely over her shoulder, her body resting casually against a scorched tree, as if she were simply waiting for a bus. Reports indicate this soldier had been part of the initial wave of drop troopers deployed to New Colante. According to both human and independent sources, she eliminated no fewer than 57 enemy combatants alone before being extracted from the surface. Shortly after the photo was taken, New Colante and everything within a 200-mile radius was turned to glass. Nuclear bombardment, warheads. The screen shifted again, this time displaying an image of a human lawyer standing calmly in a Galactic Council courtroom. The Council had attempted to charge humanity with war crimes for their actions, but the human legal representative needed only 2 points to have the entire case thrown out on the spot. 1. It was the Galactic Council themselves who had requested humanity's intervention in the colon crisis. 2. Multiple lethal viruses were released from the New Conte Biological Research Facility in a last-ditch effort to repel human forces. The human lawyer had put it best during the hearing. Humanity was faced with the prospect of losing a city or losing an entire planet. We chose to destroy the city before it could destroy itself. Admiral Talon paused, took a slow drink of water, then continued. "I'd like to remind everyone here that humans glassed New Colante as a concession. Originally, the human plan had been far more severe: to glass the entire continent and impose a quarantine zone extending 15 light-years in every direction to contain whatever biological horrors the colon forces had unleashed. And still, even that plan wasn't considered overkill by human command. The audience began to stir, whispers, shifting seats. One young officer raised her hand. With a nod of acknowledgement from Admiral Talon, she spoke hesitantly. If a 15-light-year quarantine wasn't overkill, she swallowed hard, then what was? Talon chuckled softly as he advanced the slide behind him. If only we knew. The room erupted into a low murmur of disbelief. The Admiral surveyed the stunned expressions, the confusion, the quiet alarm, still chuckling to himself. Then he dropped the final note. A 100-light-year quarantine was proposed, labeled extreme, but ultimately reasonable. Silence. Total silence. No more muttering, just wide eyes and held breath. Sensing he had fully regained their attention, Admiral Talon pressed on. This incident served as a warning to the entire galaxy. Humanity considers courses of action that most would call ludicrous, perfectly sane, and entirely reasonable. Because of this, galactic intelligence began ramping up surveillance on human activities, first over the years, then decades, and now, centuries. What we've uncovered is, without question, insane, but also incredibly revealing. The screen behind him flickered, shifting through images at a rapid pace, each one vastly different from the last. Photos of human diplomats shaking hands, colossal engineering projects, orbiting battle fleets, corporate emblems, government seals, shadowy backroom negotiations, the whole 9 yards. "What you're about to see is highly classified," the Admiral warned. "Anyone who leaks this material will face court-martial." He paused, then added with quiet finality, "Martial, and very possibly execution. But it is critical that you understand this, if only to grasp the true nature of the beast that is humanity." The screen shifted again. This time, not pictures, a video. The lights in the vast meeting hall dimmed until the room was swallowed by shadow. What played next was nothing short of monumental. Subtitles faded in. "A significant concentration of human military assets is observed stationed near an unusually large hypergate." The camera panned and zoomed, adjusting for scale. "Visible human warships, 11,127. GA Officer 1. You ever seen a battle group that size? GA Officer 2. In a history book." The hypergate began to stir. The star it orbited dimmed visibly as energy drained into the structure. The camera focused tighter on the gate's center. "GIA Officer 1. Already ran diagnostics twice. It's real. The gate's linked to a galaxy. System analysis confirmed destination is not the Great Band Galaxy." "GIA Officer 2. Get Overlord on the line. Now. The situation's changed." End of video. Admiral Talon wasted no time in explaining. Humanity has always been alien in their actions, their beliefs, their capabilities. But now we know they are truly alien in origin. He let that sink in for a moment before continuing. "Further intelligence confirms that humanity is not merely galactic. They are an intergalactic force of nature. They exert total control over no fewer than 27 galaxies. They are confirmed to have a presence in at least 1,722 galaxies, and some estimates suggest they hold influence in more than 10,000. Image after image flashed across the screen. Galaxies, megastructures, superfleets, colossal corporations, influential politicians, pioneering scientists. The data came so fast, so overwhelming, that several officers in the hall visibly swayed, growing light-headed under the weight of it all. Admiral Talon's voice cut through the rising tension. "What we are dealing with," he said gravely, "is a Type 3 civilization, 100-fold beyond our own. To them, 1,000,000 stars is barely a drop in the bucket. A 100-light-year quarantine? That's not even an inconvenience, it's just business as usual." Then, the next slide appeared, and even Talon flinched. It was a map. A chart of the aptly named Great Rift of Althor. Only 10 years ago, that rift had opened. It devoured an entire star cluster. It took the combined effort of 157 species, humans among them, to prevent its lethal radiation from sweeping through a network of over 15,000 stars. But it was the next image that broke the room. The screen shifted and pandemonium erupted. It took Talon a full minute of shouting over the chaos before anyone even heard him. When silence finally returned, it was not calm that followed. It was terror, heavy, breathless, paralyzing. "You're looking at what the humans classify as overkill," Talon said, voice low. This was the last image received from Althor before the rift consumed it. On screen, a Hypergate channel, stretching directly from human space into Althor. The officers lost all pretense of discipline. They erupted. "Why would the humans do this? We considered them allies. We're doomed. God help us all. How could it be possible?" The uproar ended instantly with the arrival of the next image. A grotesquely disfigured being appeared on the screen, its face frozen mid-scream, clearly in the throes of unimaginable pain. A single letter marked the screen. P. Within the Althor sector there had been a plague. A single carrier was enough to annihilate an entire planet. The Galactic. We begged them for help. This was their response. The next image seared itself into the room. a quasar roaring with unimaginable power. At its edge, titanic constructs channeling its energy into a beam of focused annihilation. A human hyperweapon, the most destructive device the universe has ever known. They had captured the power of a quasar, refined it, and aimed it. And they used it only when overkill became truly necessary. New slides appeared, files and footage detailing the plague. The humans had a name for it. The Scourge, a disease they had tragically encountered before in other galaxies. Admiral Talon's voice cut through the silence again. "I say this with absolute certainty," he declared. "It is the only thing I have ever seen that makes a human admiral queasy, without exception." He scanned the room, letting the weight of that statement settle across the gathered officers. Then, he began to close. "I'm sure many of you are now wondering what we're supposed to do with this information." He paused, then continued, voice quiet but firm. "Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. The information is useless to all of us. We exist at humanity's whim, and we could be erased just as easily." One final breath, one final sentence. "My last piece of wisdom to you is this. Humans," Talon began, his tone measured, "have proven time and time again to be nothing if not helpful. They show no signs of unprovoked aggression. They form alliances, broker peace. They check every box of a civilized species." A pause. "What I'm telling you is this. Under no circumstances ever should you go against the grain with humanity. They know best, and they wield enough firepower to either help us see or blind us permanently should they decide that's the better path. What they call standard procedure is our definition of apocalypse. What they consider overkill could unravel the entire universe." He let that linger for a breath. "So let me put it plainly. Don't bring a cruiser to a quasar fight." Another pause, then with complete finality. "In short, don't piss the humans off.